Good evening. Welcome to this month's Town Administrator's Report. I'm David Watts Jr., and with me is our Town Administrator, Steve Maio. Steve, how are you?
Great, David. How are you?
Good. We seem to be sliding slowly into fall.
Slowly into fall. Must be town meeting time, right? We're going into fall. That's how we measure our days.
And that's what we're going to talk about. Town meeting this year is on November 6th.
November 6th, yeah.
And we have only 7 articles.
Only 7 articles. None of them are citizen petitions this year. I mean, normally the fall town meeting is, you know, we kind of handle the business aspects of the town, fill anything in that needs to be done. And although this year we have a little bit of that, and we have, I think, a little bit of our social issues maybe coming up. So I think it's going to be an interesting night.
It definitely, you know, there are no zoning articles
there are no
on this
zoning
one
articles,
either.
yes.
That's
Thank
usually
God.
where we tend to bog down. But just to give a quick rundown on this, Article 1, of course, is to hear the report on where we are so far in the fiscal year.
Right, and really it says, you know, where did we end up last fiscal year? We kind of clean up last year and say, you know, how did every department do? And we actually have a report that will be online today or tomorrow, today being, the 20th?
Yes.
October 20th. Well in front of town meeting that shows each department, what they spent, what they returned to the town, and what they maybe have encumbered for things that are going to be done in next fiscal year. So we give a report of that to the town, and I'm very proud to say that our departments returned a little bit over $1 million to the general fund, and I think that's great. That means that departments did not spend everything that they were budgeted, and our philosophy has been, you know, and continues to be, and then I think the selectmen and the finance committee share this, is that if you're a certain department head and, you know, you didn't spend all your money, that doesn't mean that next year we're coming in with the scalpel.
Right.
It's meaning let's talk about it and say there's no fear, I guess. There's no fear of spend it or lose it in the future.
Right.
I think a lot of you know, my colleagues out there instill that fear, so people spend everything, and they stock up, and we don't know. No one needs to have tons and tons of paper towels, you know, because of this, or pens or what have you, and those things add up. So we do that. We also see where the state kind of says we are, and state will evaluate us and say, how much money do we have there in here? And at the end of last fiscal year, we ended up with a very healthy free cash amount of $9.6 million. We're going to use some of that, and we'll maybe talk about that in Article 2 as we're going about. But that came to about from the different departments returning money, and also revenues coming in much higher than we had anticipated, mainly because of the building boom that's going on in Wakefield. And excise taxes on automobiles. People are buying newer cars. We have no real control over that. Kind of a sign of the economy. So those two things added together, and with the return to the town. So I think that is something that I know I'm very proud of. I really got to thank Kevin Gill, our town accountant, John McCarthy, town treasurer, Victor Santinello, our assessor, Board of Selectmen, and Finance Committee, really working together to put a good financial package forward. So I'm very happy about that. Now, some people will say, well, we shouldn't have so much free cash. We'll talk about that. We're going to use some of it. But it does make a difference when we go out to borrow. So the money that we pay, the interest that we pay on the Galvin School is much lower because of our strong financial position. So there is a lot of sense in having good reserves.
And it will help us going forward when we make decisions on the high school.
On the high school.
Which is going to be coming up.
Public safety buildings coming up before that. DPW garage we're looking at, Walton School we're in the throes of, any other infrastructure things. And I think it is important that we maintain our infrastructure, but we do it in a way that we can afford. And I think it's kind of nice that what we're talking about is moving forward on these issues, and we're not talking about overrides like some of our very close neighbors are. So I think that we can all be very proud of that work together for it.
Well, and that has been a theme for a decade now, or very nearly a decade now, when it comes to discussing projects.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, and we've reflected numerous times on this series the fact that we have been able to do things that other towns around us have not.
Yeah, well, we've ridden a good wave, I guess. Let's put it that way.
Article 3 is a contract.
Yep, that's the last contract that we have to settle. I really wish that I had settled it in for the April or for the May town meeting.
Yep.
We had a little bit more work to do that's with our firefighters. They do a great job. It's imagine our lives without them. Everyone, as I said, these are the guys that are and women that are running into buildings
That's
when
right.
there's a tragedy or something going on, not running away from it. So really, they are very special and very important to us, like our other first responders. And this is a 3-year contract, very similar to all the others, very similar to the, in particular to the police department.
Mm-hmm.
I anticipate this to be a fairly, hopefully, a fairly benign discussion at town meeting, but it is a very fair contract. But if we could jump back to Article 2 for a
Sure,
second.
sure.
And one thing that we also do at town meeting is that, we do use a portion of our free cash to balance the budget, which means that we're not taxing for it. We're using our own reserve to kind of, to pay for things, to pay for everything. We're going to use about $2.2 million of free cash this year. This is by design with the Finance Committee. We've thought about how we're doing this, how we're going forward, and this is something that is part of our plan. But part and parcel of this is that, and the Board of Selectmen have voted this last night, and Finance Committee will, I'm sure, approve it Wednesday night or Thursday night, is that we are not taxing to the max on Prop 2.5. So we're leaving money in the hands of the taxpayers. Now, is that a huge amount of money? No, but it probably means $60 a year to the normal residential taxpayer or to the average residential taxpayer in Wakefield. So I think, again, that's something. It's about $640,000. It is something that I think we're proud of, and it will be coming out of our free cash. So when all the dust settles at town meeting, we'll still have $7 million for emergencies and for reserves, and I think that'll carry us forward very well. So this has all been by design. So
Excellent. Very cool. Article 4, this is actually returned to May.
this is returned to May. Now, what happened in May, and this was a great article by a wonderful citizen, Caitlin Bracken. I think she's a sophomore now in high school. And talk about a smart, intelligent young woman who presented this and came very close to getting it passed at town meeting, in May. And town meeting ultimately proposed bringing it back, having studied and looked at it. And we made a couple of tweaks in it. What we did was we looked at the thickness of the plastic bag and determined that, dropping that from 2.5 to 2.25 milliliters, I think it's milliliters or mill whatever it is, it was more in step with the industry. And
Okay.
really, there is a scientific point where that is the level where it costs more to dispose of that single-use flimsy bag
Right.
than to manufacture it and use it for at least 10 times. So there was a scientific method behind that. And the other item is that we phased it in. We did decide, and what happened was the selectmen actually set a subcommittee to look at this, with the full thought we'd come back. At the
Part of the
meeting.
argument against it in May was from the retail folks.
Right.
And the fact that they really hadn't been included in
Right.
the decision-making process before the original article was put on the
Right.
warrant and presented to
Right.
town meeting.
And in this case, we did have a subcommittee that had Chamber of Commerce represented, had merchant represented, and townspeople, of course. And so what we decided to do is we looked at, let's look at all of our businesses in Wakefield. And for those that are smaller businesses, and we drew the number at, I believe, 2,500 square feet of retail space for your single entity. You're going to get a little longer to implement this. You're going to get till September of 2018. The larger stores, and let's face it, CVS, Shaw's, Dollar Tree,
Yep.
They are in other communities that have already passed this in Massachusetts as well. So they're used to that. They know what they need to do, okay? Some of your smaller, and let's use the word mom and pop for lack of a better term, they might have to make some changes. And if they purchased a lot of, bags, we don't want to hurt them. We do want to get this is much better for the environment in the long run, but we'll give them a chance to phase it in. And then, so that gives them to September 1st, and then extensions of up to 3 months may be granted upon written request. So I'm thinking of someone that just opened up and they're having trouble, they need this. So we'll certainly look at that. The group that met was very engaged and really felt that, this was much better for the environment. It will be actually a savings to the town of Wakefield on our trash removal fee. And we actually have figured it out, and I don't have the formula with me, but it's about $4,800, $5,000 a year on our tipping fees.
Doesn't sound like much, but over time.
Over time.
Yeah.
But really, to me, the money is not the big issue on this. This is what is better for the environment. And these single-use bags, they can't be recycled. They clog the recycling machines. They end up everywhere around the lake and for Wakefield. But they end up in the water supply, and there's a lot of other. They end up on islands, and so there are a lot of other issues there. And I think it says a little bit about our community, about being progressive and moving forward. And why don't we celebrate this and use this as a marketing tool? Why don't we say, you know what, shop local, shop Wakefield. Let's work with the Chamber of Commerce. Let's work with the town. Let's work with the Main Streets organization. Let's go out and create our own or have printed our own reusable bags.
Yep.
I mean, I know I use them when I shop now anyway. So I think it's a great step in the right direction. A couple of questions have come up. Does this affect things like Festival by the Lake and the Farmers Market? The answer is no. Those are not retail stores.
Right.
Okay. Does it affect, to a certain extent, I think some restaurants may give you a styrofoam thing with a plastic bag around it. Does it affect that? No, because that is not a retail or a grocery store. So those are carved out in this. So I think that all those things are good. We have probably a better bylaw than we had before, by a little bit, because Caitlin did such a great job with it.
Right.
The other item that was important in this bylaw, and this really came from the merchants, and they said, you know what, if you're going to have a bylaw like this, there needs to be more teeth in the finding of this. And I think we have like $25 or was the first offense, and then 50. So these are 100, 200, 300.
Right.
For any, so maybe it means a little bit more to people to pass it. So I think that this was a great venture of working with the public. Maureen Butt sat on this as the liaison for the Board of Selectmen, and I think we hit a lot of the comments that people made at town meeting. And so I'm hoping that there'll be, again, a discussion, and I do think that this will be, I'm predicting that one's going to pass.
We're going to hold you to that one.
Okay, that's okay. I've been wrong before.
Have we had any reaction from the retail community on this particular, the way this one's been written up?
It's kind of a funny one. The retailers that were involved in the committee really, I think, are for this.
Yep.
I understand that a survey went out to the Chamber of Commerce members. I'm hearing that there is still some hesitation there in the Chamber of Commerce, and I get that, and that's okay. But I still think that sometimes we need to move forward.
Right.
And
and
that's why we have an open town meeting to discuss these things.
Something I would fight to keep, believe me. Article 5 is the one that, and I'll be honest with you, I understand the spirit behind it, but in the way it's presented here, I have some definitive problems with it. And partly it's because if one is reading the newspaper or something, okay, there'll be no confusion. But if people are talking about an issue and they refer to town council and town council, it's going to get confusing really fast, and particularly in town meeting. Could we come up with a term that is not confusing, but also deals with the concerns that were raised that brought up the name change in the first place, that people aren't comfortable with the fact that it's the Board of Selectmen?
Well, I think that I understand that. I mean, it depends whether how you pronounce C and how you pronounce S, right?
Right.
In any event, but
But
I think,
most people, when
yeah,
they're talking quickly,
yeah.
don't.
I think that if you want to talk about the actual word first, and then we can talk about what's behind it a little bit.
Okay.
I think that town council, CIL,
Mm-hmm.
all right, which means the group.
Right.
Okay, that will be shortened to the council. People refer to it as the council.
Mm-hmm.
No one refers to Tom Mullen, our very capable town council, as the council. I think they refer to him as counselor sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think that he will become town attorney or our attorney or what have you, which I think people understand better anyway. It's kind of interesting. One very prominent woman in town, and I won't embarrass her in the show, she said that this is a great spelling lesson for people in town too, so we'll get some education out of it. So I think that I am not at all concerned that there will be confusion in that. And I think that people will find a way, because you have city councilors, you have city solicitors. If you say council, we use the council for this, them use that term as well. So I don't think that will be. I think what's unfortunate is that the way that articles are written sometimes for a warrant. I mean, this certainly isn't
The legalese.
The legalese. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a real sexy article to look at. You know, it's going through a bunch of and what have you. So, but I think that I think that the Board of Selectmen, currently the Board of Selectmen, we'll call them the board. Currently, the board felt that this was important to get in front of the people now, and have it discussed now, and have it discussed in an open town meeting now. And that's why it's out there at this time.
It will certainly be an interesting discussion.
It'll be an interesting discussion, and I really hope on all the articles, I hope this at every town meeting, that there is a good, certainly spirited discussion, which is always welcome, but that it is of the quality that we expect from town meeting. I mean, Wakefield Town Meeting has traditionally been, with many different entities and personalities there, has usually been very respectful and on the issue, and I hope that it continues that way. The trend is not so much in a lot of our surrounding communities. In fact, I was with the fellow manager today of one of our, kind of in this area, was telling me that they actually had to have removed a person from their open town meeting at last meeting. I don't remember that happening in a long time in Wakefield.
Actually, the only time it's happened isn't because of someone's discourse in a debate. It was an argument between the moderator and one citizen who, every time town meeting was called to order, questioned the quorum. And there is no quorum.
There is no quorum requirement, yeah.
You know, one person and we have a town meeting.
We have a town meeting in Wakefield, yeah.
So
this was actually because of the vitriol and the profanity
Yeah.
being used by someone in the crowd. I certainly don't expect that in our town, and I hope and pray that something like that doesn't happen.
We've had argumentative people, and that's not
true.
always a bad thing.
Not absolutely isn't.
And our town moderator is usually on top of this.
He usually is.
Yeah. He'll certainly earn his non-money this one.
You know, my feeling on this Article 5 is that this Article 5 is not for the strong. It's not for those who are, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. This is for the people that, and particularly the young women in our society, who have reached out, to my office and to other selectmen, who have said to their parents, who have said to me, and said that, I can't be a select man. How can I be that? mommy or daddy.
Right.
So, and I know that I've served with and for wonderfully strong, brilliant women.
Right.
And I tell them, this is not for you.
Right.
You didn't need this,
Right.
but you know what? People behind you did.
This
And people
is
coming
for,
after.
for everyone else.
This is for everyone
Yeah.
else. And I
Yeah.
tell you, around the state, and I see this at the Mass Municipal Association, more and more, this gender-neutral
Right.
language is coming.
Right.
So,
Well, and we've done that on the Human Rights Committee. We
Right.
have dropped, it's now chair and vice chair.
right.
There
You've
is no
actually
chairman
dropped.
and there is,
Yeah.
we didn't go to chairperson. We
Right.
just went to chair and vice chair.
Right.
And that's it.
So
And-
it'll be an interesting discussion, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
I agree with the spirit of what we're trying
Yeah.
to do. I just don't agree with the term.
Okay.
So it'll
That's
be
all right.
interesting.
Get over it.
I may be the only one. I may be the only one. Okay, Article 6
Yes.
is, and I'm not sure because what's the change here? Everybody
what-
has to pay for
Right,
licenses.
but what the change here is that the town clerk, Betsy Sharon, our brilliant town clerk, has done a survey and seen that we are woefully under the market on our charging for
Dog licenses.
dog
Yep.
licenses. And right now we're...
We should have said up front, this is the
Yeah.
dog license
This
fee
is the dog
article.
license fee article. For unneutered and unspayed dogs, we're currently at $10.
Right,
And for neutered and spayed dogs, we're $5.
right.
So that is very, very low. And so I think that it was determined that, or she made the determination, her office did, under the charter, and said, hey, you know what? We should rectify this now. Why wait?
Right.
So you know what? There's certainly room in this article, in this warrant, to have it. So that's certainly something that I think, sometimes these are the items that you bog down on. So that'll be interesting to see too, is that how many people are going to talk about this one.
This one, I'll tell you honestly, this one seems like a slam dunk.
Well, you know what? Let's
Not
we're
going
gonna,
up
we're
that
gonna run
much.
back the tape on that one too. Then.
And then lastly, Article 7
Yeah.
is really just added detail for people's information.
Well, really, Article 7 is right now on our town report that is printed annually every year. We print the name of every birth, every death, and every marriage in the town, and names. Okay.
Right.
It's a lot of pages. We do it under bylaw right now, and it's a lot of pages, so it costs more. But that's really not what this is about. And many, or the majority of town reports do not include the specific names in there because of security reasons, and because of safety
Nowadays.
reasons. Nowadays. And it's very different today than it was years ago.
Right.
Many years ago when we were growing up. So in the vital statistics section is that you maybe have a number, so it'll be 300 births, so many deaths, so many marriages. What is happening is that people are so much more devious now than they used to be years ago. They're going to read and report, hey, this, someone was born last year, and all of a sudden they figure out, who the parents are and street address, and all of a sudden there are fake IDs and
Yeah.
things like that, and
Yeah.
or worse, or there's something more devious going on. So, the most of the clerks in the area have gone to, in most of the cities and towns, have gone to this change for safety reasons. So that's kind of what's happening here is what's happening here. And we need a bylaw change to make sure that we
Right.
do that.
But it's also not just, yeah, okay, all right. But it also says shall contain the names of all persons who have served as members of any board, committee, or commission. Aren't we doing that now?
We're doing that now anyway, so I think it's just
So it's
it-
just the-
it's just changing that whole sentence, that whole section,
Okay.
identification of individuals.
Okay,
We will
so they're
continue-
replacing the whole
Right.
section
Right.
to make the change.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Again, it's that legalese that our town council puts together.
Well, he's got to earn his money
That's
somehow,
right.
you know? Okay, so 7 articles, one night,
One night. I agree with you, one night.
and, you know, the important thing is, though, for everyone to come down.
Yes, and something that's really exciting this year is that, and over the years, we've had people complain about open town meeting because you know what, they have to sit through a lot of articles. I get that. That's the process. They have, they don't have babysitting, you know, facilities, or they have babysitting people that handle this, so they can't go and what have you. This year, the Boys and Girls Club, which is right across the parking lot from the Galvin school where this
Right.
will be,
Right.
is offering babysitting services for nothing. And they'll have, you know, whatever activities they do there, maybe a little bit of playing in the gym or what have you. What a resource
Great
is that we
resource.
have that Boys and Girls Club. I mean, all their volunteers and their employees there that work with children, they're all Cory checked. All those things are done, just like they do for the regular going
Sure.
on. So
Sure.
you can go, you can drop off your children. You know, they'll be open a little bit before, a little bit after. So I think it's it's for nothing. It's for free, and it's what a great program. And I think what Boys and Girls Club are going to do is continue this on,
Right.
and has become part of our method of really trying to help the citizens of getting things done. So
And
I
that's
think it's great.
fantastic.
Yeah.
But also the other side of it is, and you know, people who follow the community page on Facebook and such see this time and time again of how people will castigate other, especially town officials, for what they do or
I've never
don't
seen
do.
that.
You know, verbally burn them in effigy sometimes, and yet, you know, town meeting, open town meeting, is their chance to come down and
Absolutely.
have their say,
Right.
have their vote, be involved in the debates, and actually help to carve out what kind of a town Wakefield is going to
Right.
be down the road.
Exactly, exactly. And
So-
there's no other form of government that allows that.
Right.
Gives everyone the opportunity to do that. Even a representative town meeting doesn't.
That's just a city council with a different name.
It's a larger number usually. So, you know, it is Monday, the 6th of November at 7 o'clock. I hope we start on time. So get there a little bit earlier.
Pretty close. Yep.
Pretty close. And, you know, we'll have a first article. You know, maybe I've been teased over the past few years. I usually have a quote in there from a songwriter or from a poet or something. So I haven't kind of figured out what I'm going to put in this year about that. You know, to go on the tone of town meeting and how it shouldn't be a partisan tone. Last year I quoted Mayor LaGuardia in New York that, you know what, there isn't a Democratic or a Republican way to fix a sewer line.
Right.
So you know what, we shouldn't have those distinctions when we're at town meeting, at least in
But
Wakefield open
that's
town meeting.
also the great thing about town meeting. For the most part, you don't see those distinctions. You know, certain people identify themselves with the town Democratic Committee
Right.
or with the town Republican Committee, but in debates in town meeting, that
have-
stuff goes
yeah,
away. It's
yeah.
about what's happening
Right.
with this article
Right.
and its effect on the town.
And I hope we keep that in a respectful way. We've done our job.
And I think that's a good note to
Yeah.
end on. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you next month.
Thank you. Thank you, David.